What's up, guys? I've been using my Titan T3 rack in my garage gym for a little over 2 years now. And in this video, I'm gonna let you know whether or not it's worth buying to put in your garage gym. So when I first started setting up my garage gym a few years ago, I actually built my own DIY squat stand out of 4x4s. And it was just a simple squat stand where I could get the bar in and out, squat with it. And when I became aware that this was gonna be a more permanent thing, I decided it was time to upgrade and get some steel, and I ended up going with this Titan T3 rack. Now, to be quite honest, the thing that initially drew me to the rack was the price. So I got a full power rack for around 500 bucks. And before I get into whether or not it was worth it, let's talk about a little bit of the specs itself. So Titan's T3 rack gives you a lot of different options that you can use as you're deciding exactly what's going to fit best for you. So for instance, there's two different height options. There's an 82-inch height and a 91-inch height that you can choose from. I went with the 91-inch height. I'm a tall guy. That way my pull-up bars are high enough to where I can do pull-ups a little more comfortably. The beams on the rack are 2x3, and what 2x3 means is it's 2 inches wide by 3 inches deep. And to be quite honest, this was one of the hesitations that I had with getting this rack in the first place. I've always worked in college weight rooms, and every rack that we had ever bought for a college weight room are all 3x3. So what 3x3 means is it's 3 inches wide, 3 inches deep. The bigger beams is going to be sturdier, it's heavier, it's more durable. But after using this for 2 years, the 2x3 beam, I've had absolutely no issues. I've never felt like, oh, well, this is going to be unsafe, or oh, this doesn't feel strong enough to be able to handle the weight that I'm using with it. I've had absolutely no issues with that whatsoever. The other thing with getting the 2x3 beams that you just need to be aware of is if you're going to get attachments, if you're going to get J-hooks, if you're going to get a dip attachment, be aware that those are made to fit either a 2x3 beam or a 3x3 beam. Now, 3x3 beam is a little bit more common, so you're going to find more attachments that's going to fit a 3x3 rack, but there are still plenty of companies that make attachments for a 2x3 rack, including Titan themselves. So the beams are 2x3 instead of 3x3. However, they are 11 gauge steel, and all that means is the gauge of steel is how thick is the actual steel itself. And so an 11 gauge steel is kind of the gold standard when it comes to a steel power rack. As you get higher in number of that gauge, a 12 gauge or a 14 gauge, the higher in number actually means thinner steel. So an 11 gauge thickness on the steel is really what kind of swayed me to go ahead and go with a 2x3 rack, because I still knew I was getting that quality thickness in the steel. So the final piece of the beams is going to be the hole spacing. So with the T3 rack, you've got 2-inch hole spacing throughout the top of the rack and the bottom of the rack. And then through this middle section right here, you have what's called west side hole spacing. So west side hole spacing is where you're going to have 2-inch towards the top, 2-inch towards the bottom. But then through this little section, they're going to be 1 inch apart. They're going to be really close. And the reason for that is this is going to be the section where most people are going to bench, rack pulls, things of that nature. And it can be a huge difference. That 2-inch gap can make a big difference if you're right in between spots, taking it in and out of the rack to bench press, or if you're doing pulls off the safety racks or off of J-hooks. So that tighter hole spacing can make it really convenient to get it in and out of the rack. So the next piece that Titan allows you to kind of pick what you want is in the depth of the rack. So you can go either a 24-inch depth from front to back, or I believe it's a 36-inch depth from front to back. Now, for me personally, I don't really ever feel like I need a lot of room inside the squat rack. I know some people do. They start to feel a little claustrophobic, like they don't have time, they don't have room to move around. I went with the 24-inch depth just because that gives me plenty of room to do anything that I need to do inside the rack, and that's then going to free up extra floor space so I can fit my platform in more easily, I can get my dumbbell space in more easily, and it just frees up more space overall within the gym itself. So now let's talk about performance. So I kind of mentioned earlier with the 2x3, it's worked great, it's held up great. I've never had any issues with it feeling like it's not strong enough or it's not sturdy enough. The other piece of it is it does have holes in the bottom where you can bolt it down to the floor. I chose not to just because I honestly don't want to drill holes into my garage floor. And so what I'll do if I'm doing pull-ups or if I'm doing TRX rows or different things where I need to be more sturdy, I'll just throw some plates on the bar. And I actually set up, I took one of the boards that I had on there from my squat rack previously, put a little bungee up at the top to hold it down, which has actually done a really good job, along with some plates in the back to keep it nice and sturdy if I'm doing pull-ups or some different things of that nature. When I'm squatting or benching and taking it in and out of the rack, I don't have any issues with feeling like it's going to be wobbling all over the place. It stays in place pretty well. And the Titan also has optional plate holders that you can get. So you can get plate holders to go on the side. If you do that, throw a couple plates on the side, and you shouldn't have any issues with it moving around a whole lot. Finally, would I recommend you getting one of these yourself? 100%. For 500 bucks, I really don't know how you beat it. And on top of the fact that it's only 500 bucks, Titan ships everything for free, 100% for free. Now, it's not gonna be Amazon Prime and show up at your door the next day, but in a week or two, you're gonna have a rack show up at your house for free for around 500 bucks that has 2 pull-up bars, fat bar in the back, regular standard pull-up bar in the front. You can pick the height that fits you, you can pick the depth that fits you, comes with the J hooks as well. For around 500 bucks, that's really hard to beat, and that's why I bought it for my gym, and I've never once wished I had gone with something different. So that's it. If you like this video and it helped you out a little bit to decide whether or not you should grab one of these for yourself, do me a huge favor, go down and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit all of those things. And then also, while you're down there, in the description, I've actually got links to Titan T3 rack and then any of the accessories that you're going to grab. I'll put a link in for the J hooks and for the 2x3 dip attachments as well. See you guys in the next video.